have a valid work visa, a round-trip ticket, and an invitation letter from the company. Why am I still not allowed to pass? It's been 3 hours, and my flight is about to take off. Check my phone? That's an invasion of privacy.
Border gates. Escape becomes a fading dream. In 2025, leaving China has become a luxury few can afford. The CCP, in a desperate bid to keep its citizens in check, has erected invisible walls at every border checkpoint. Since May 2025, issuing and renewing passports has been halted in provinces like Fujian. A Shanghai vlogger lamented, "Getting a passport now is harder than immigrating to another country. You need a mountain of paperwork, and even then your application can be rejected without explanation." Those returning from abroad face an even stranger fate. Local authorities have demanded they surrender their passports, a move unprecedented in Chinese modern history. At border crossings, customs officers act like ruthless gatekeepers. Travelers, whether for tourism, business, or family visits, are subjected to grueling interrogations about their itineraries, intentions, and even life plans. Luggage, phones, messages, and personal photos are scrutinized with surgical precision. A student hoping to study in Japan shared, "I was interrogated for 50 minutes at the airport. They checked every message, every photo on my phone. Because I hesitated when asked about my school, they deemed my purpose unclear and barred me from boarding." In another case, at Shenyang Airport, a group of young friends headed to Jeju Island, South Korea, was denied exit despite valid tickets and visas, simply because customs suspected they intended to flee. Such stories are far from rare. A Shenzhen businessman was detained in an interrogation room for over an hour after customs found messages about a potential investment in Thailand. He recounted, "They kept asking, 'Why Thailand? How long are you staying? Are you planning to work there?' I had a valid visa, but it meant nothing." Even short-term tourists faced demands for return tickets, proof of employment, and invitation letters from abroad. One netizen vented, "I was going to a visa-free country, yet they grilled me about my shopping list and travel plans. It's beyond comprehension." The CCP claims these measures are to curb cross-border crime and manage migration. But the public believes the real goal is to stem a mass exodus. Post-COVID-19, illegal migration by Chinese citizens to the U.S. via South and Central America skyrocketed. Over 24,000 in fiscal year 2023, compared to under 15,000 in the previous decade. When the Trump administration cracked down on illegal immigration in 2024, many turned to Europe via the Balkan route: Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria. A blogger remarked, "From children to middle-aged workers to 99-year-old grandparents, everyone wants out. They see no future in China. Yet, with border gates tightly locked, that dream is slipping further away." Device crackdowns, a firewall against information. Beyond sealing exit routes, the CCP is clamping down on the flow of information in and out of China. Since April 2024, the Ministry of State Security has enforced new rules expanding the power to inspect phones and electronic devices of both Chinese citizens and foreigners at the border. A YouTuber warned, "If you want to leave China, wipe your phone clean of any sensitive messages, photos, or videos. A single text about job hunting abroad could land you in detention." A stark example: a young man was denied exit at Beijing Airport after customs found messages about studying in Southeast Asia, labeled as an intent to flee. Those entering China face similar scrutiny. A traveler returning from Hong Kong to Shenzhen recounted, "Hong Kong's airport asked nothing, but in Shenzhen, they flipped through my passport 5 times and checked my travel photos." Political commentator Tang Jingyun observed, "The CCP aims to block external information from entering China. This is part of a soft lockdown policy, pushing society into a wartime mindset." Scholar Chen Daoyin advised using a separate phone at the border, especially for sensitive groups like human rights activists or Falun Gong practitioners. a Hong Kong resident who frequently crosses into Shenzhen, shared. In China, you can't function without a phone. Every payment is app-based, but if your phone has sensitive content, you're in big trouble. I always carry a clean phone for the mainland. Officials and the elite, shackled by golden handcuffs. Ordinary citizens aren't the only ones trapped. Officials and the wealthy are ensnared in the CCP's web of control. Since 2021, government officials, state-owned enterprise, SOE employees, teachers, doctors, and even village chiefs have been required to surrender their passports. The process to gain approval for international travel is so convoluted it's nearly impossible, a former Beijing bank official revealed. Even if your background check is approved, leaders often refuse to sign off, fearing responsibility. The result? No one goes. In June 2024, the South China Morning Post reported that these restrictions now cover nearly all SOE staff, financial sector workers, and school and hospital administrators. The wealthy, once able to move money abroad with ease, now face the CCP's golden handcuffs policy. In Shanghai, over 200 business executives were barred from international flights last month due to sudden economic crime allegations. Despite a $50,000 0 cents annual limit on overseas transfers, billions are still flowing out through crypto companies and foreign real estate investments via shell companies. Applications for investor visas to Portugal, Greece, and Canada have surged 300% in the past 6 months. Fears of defection spiked after the CIA released Mandarin-language videos urging disgruntled officials to share state secrets for freedom. Journalist Zhao Lanjin identified 4 high-risk defector groups: sidelined officials, young tech workers, overseas diplomats, and internal security personnel. Scholar Yuan Hongbing warned, most CCP officials are now two-faced. A major event could collapse the surveillance system, paving the way for political upheaval. Economic collapse, a house of cards crumbles. Beyond locked borders, China's economy is crumbling like a house of cards. In the coming weeks, 10 million workers are expected to lose their jobs without severance, many unpaid for months. Youth unemployment has soared to alarming levels. The real estate market, once an economic engine, lies in ruins, with major developers defaulting on billions in loans. National debt has reached a staggering 300% of GDP. Over $40 trillion, 0 cents, quadruple the 2008 figure. Factories, once the pride of the world's factory, are shutting down en masse, leaving millions of workers in despair. A global wave of tariffs has dealt a fatal blow to China's export-dependent economy. The U.S. imposed 200% tariffs on certain goods. The EU slapped 45% duties on electric vehicles and steel, and emerging markets like Brazil, India, and Vietnam raised barriers to protect local industries. In Guangdong, once bustling industrial parks are now shrouded in darkness. Shenzhen's electronics manufacturing hub laid off 50,000 workers in 3 months. A factory supervisor shared, orders from the U.S. stopped overnight. In 2 months, 5,000 people lost their jobs in a single day. In Sichuan, textile factories that once clothed the world are empty shells, with dusty machines sitting idle. Nearly 40% of manufacturing facilities in the region have closed or operate at half capacity. Unlike the 2008 crisis, when China unleashed a $500 billion 0 cents stimulus package to save its economy, the government now lacks fiscal room to maneuver. Local government debt exceeds 80% of GDP, and real estate can no longer absorb funds. Moreover, tariffs signal a structural shift. The world is reducing reliance on Chinese manufacturing, pivoting to Vietnam. The CCP recognizes this threat, but measures like propping up failing firms or fudging data are mere band-aids on a gaping wound. People in misery, from protests to despair. The economic crisis and border controls have plunged China's people into misery. In Dongguan, over 10,000 workers blocked highways to demand compensation after mass layoffs, sparking violent clashes with police. Similar protests erupted in Chengdu, Chongqing, and rural villages like Guangmo, Guangdong. where locals opposed land seizures and port projects. In Beijing, subway security checks have fueled public outrage over delays and congestion. One resident fumed. "Billions in security budgets can't quell our discontent. We feel like prisoners in our own country." The middle class, once the embodiment of the Chinese dream, now faces a nightmare. Chang Yi, a 42-year-old engineer in Suzhou, once had a stable job and a city apartment. Now, with his salary slashed 40%, he can't pay his mortgage, and plans to send his son abroad for study have collapsed. He said, "We were taught the economy would grow forever. Now no one knows where the bottom is." Migrant workers, who flocked to coastal industrial zones, returned to rural hometowns only to find no opportunities, trapped in limbo. Social issues are spiraling. In Wuhan, hospitals report a 60% surge in patients seeking treatment for anxiety and depression. Suicide rates in industrial areas have skyrocketed, and domestic violence has doubled in hard-hit regions. A Douyin blogger warned, 2025 could be a year of mass deaths, not just from disease but from despair. The stark contrast between state propaganda claiming 5% economic growth and the reality of shuttered factories has sparked an unprecedented crisis of trust. Censorship and propaganda, a losing battle. To conceal the crisis, the CCP has ramped up censorship to unparalleled levels. Posts about protests, factory closures, or social discontent are deleted within minutes. State media churns out tales of high-quality development and economic transformation, while thousands of factories grind to a halt. But the public isn't fooled. Citizens use coded language, metaphors, and innocuous photos to spread the truth. One netizen wrote, "We call factory closures extended vacations to dodge censors, but everyone knows what's happening." This information war exposes the CCP's vulnerability. Despite wielding the world's most advanced surveillance system, the regime can't fully silence its people. Secret discussions on encrypted apps or behind closed doors reveal a growing question: is one-party rule still compatible with economic prosperity? This represents the gravest threat to the CCP since the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989. An uncertain future. Where will the CCP go? The CCP stands at a crossroads, facing an existential crisis. History suggests three possible responses. Harsher repression. Security forces could be unleashed to crush dissent with unprecedented brutality, paired with intensified surveillance to preemptively neutralize troublemakers. Nationalist diversion. The CCP might stoke tensions with Taiwan, escalate South China Sea disputes, or spark limited military conflicts to rally the public and distract from economic failures. Reform. The regime could admit its economic model is exhausted and pursue market reforms, reducing state control. But this would require relinquishing power, something the CCP has never shown willingness to do. The most likely outcome is a blend of repression and nationalism, with the mix depending on the crisis's severity. Yet these are temporary fixes. The export-driven growth model is broken, and the CCP lacks a viable alternative. Global impact, opportunities, and risks. China's unraveling offers both opportunities and dangers. Manufacturing is shifting to Vietnam, India, Mexico, and the US, reshaping supply chains and creating new economic winners. But an unstable China poses global security risks. A desperate CCP might resort to reckless actions, from military escalation to economic disruption, threatening world stability. The old China is gone. China in 2025 is no longer the invincible economic juggernaut. With borders locked, the economy in tatters, and its people in misery, the CCP faces the greatest threat to its survival in history. Can the regime weather this storm? Or will it be swept away by the people's rising discontent? The answer lies in the months ahead, as pressure mounts and the voices of the oppressed grow louder. Share your thoughts and stay tuned for the latest developments from a nation teetering on the edge of crisis. If you found this video insightful, feel free to share it with those who are concerned about China's future and its global impact. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe to support China Undercover.